The Galactic Federation was a vast and powerful coalition of alien species, some of the most technologically advanced civilizations in the universe. They had seen it all: towering ships that could warp space, weapons capable of destroying entire planets, and intelligence networks that spanned across light years. To them, humanity was a curious but insignificant species, barely crawling out of its cradle on Earth. A small blue planet that had only recently managed to build its first interstellar ships, barely more than metal cans drifting through the stars. At a Federation Council meeting, representatives from dozens of species gathered in a massive chamber to discuss matters of the utmost importance. The room was filled with towering beings made of energy, insectoid creatures, and others whose forms were impossible to fully comprehend. They all turned their attention to Earth's ambassador, a weary but determined woman named Dr. Emily Carter. "We are grateful for the invitation to join the defense against the Void Reavers," Dr. Carter said, her voice steady despite the skepticism in the room. "However, we have a proposal for a new joint defense strategy. We believe humanity can play a key role in protecting the galaxy." The chamber buzzed with laughter. Earth, one of the Federation members, a large four-armed reptilian, snickered. "What could a species with so little advanced technology offer? You're still trying to build ships that can travel between stars." Another alien, a floating crystalline entity, added, "It is cute that you believe you can help, but the Void Reavers are unlike anything you've ever faced. You are not ready." The laughter grew louder, echoing around the room. Dr. Carter's face flushed, but she held her ground. "We may not have the same technology as you, but we are not without our strengths," she said, her voice unwavering. "We have ingenuity. We have adaptability. And most importantly, we have the will to fight." A tall insectoid species leader stood up. Will alone will not stop the Void Reavers. It will take far more than your will to defeat such an enemy." The laughter continued, dismissing Earth's contribution as naive and unworthy of serious consideration. Dr. Carter knew the reality. Earth had nothing to offer in terms of raw power compared to the Galactic Federation. Their ships were outdated, their weapons far from sophisticated. But Earth had something no one else had: the spirit to never give up. The meeting continued, with Earth's proposal ignored, but Dr. Carter refused to back down. She knew she had to keep fighting for her people, for humanity. But she also knew that the Federation's mockery of Earth's efforts would only make their eventual triumph that much sweeter. Back on Earth, in a small, cluttered workshop in a quiet neighborhood, a young girl named Clara Hill was making something incredible. Clara wasn't like other children her age. While other kids were playing outside or doing their homework, Clara was immersed in something far bigger: designing spacecraft. It was something she'd been doing for years, since she first found an old science magazine with pictures of alien ships. From then on, she had a passion for space, for technology, and for solving problems no one thought possible. At only 12 years old, Clara had already been recognized as a genius by some of the best engineers and scientists on Earth. She had an intuition for machines, a way of understanding how to make them work that was far beyond her years. She had read about the Galactic Federation, seen their ships in holovids, and listened to the stories of Earth's failed attempts to keep up with them. But Clara wasn't discouraged. She wasn't going to accept Earth's position as a joke. If the Federation wouldn't listen to her people, she'd make them listen by doing what they thought was impossible. Clara had spent the last year designing a new kind of warship, not just any ship, a ship that could stand toe-to-toe with the best the galaxy had to offer. She called it the Resolute. It was sleek, efficient, and built on principles that were both entirely human and strangely advanced. Clara's design merged human ingenuity with the technology she had seen in Federation blueprints. She had found a way to make the most of Earth's strengths: adaptability and resourcefulness. The Resolute wasn't just a warship. It was a statement, a declaration that Earth wasn't going to sit idly by while the galaxy laughed at them. Clara's warship would be the thing that proved humanity's worth in the eyes of the galaxy, and she was going to make it happen, even if no one else believed in her. She uploaded her design to a public database, thinking it might be a long shot for anyone to notice. But Clara knew this was the beginning of something important. She didn't expect the Federation to immediately recognize her work, but she hoped that someone somewhere would see the potential in it. The world was about to change. The Federation continued to laugh at Earth's efforts, but Clara wasn't the only one who had noticed her design. Earth's space agency had seen it too. In secret, they began to study her plans, running simulations, refining the design. They realized that the Resolute might just be the key to humanity's survival, and their chance to prove that Earth could stand among the stars. And so, as the Federation continued to underestimate Earth, Clara Hill's ship, her creation, began to take shape. But neither the Federation nor the Void Reavers knew it yet. Earth was about to show them what humanity was truly capable of. Clara Hill sat in her small room, surrounded by piles of books, old schematics, and scattered electronic parts. It was a mess to anyone else, but to Clara, it was a place of clarity, a place where her dreams came alive. As the sun set over the city, casting a soft orange glow through her window, Clara leaned over her desk, deep in thought. She had always loved machines. Since she was a little girl, she had tinkered with broken electronics, figuring out how things worked, how they could be made better. But this, the Resolute, this was her greatest creation. Clara didn't just want to build a ship. She wanted to create something that would change everything. It was her answer to the Federation's mockery. It was proof that humanity had something unique to offer. At just 12 years old, Clara was already known as a genius in some circles, but she knew that didn't matter to the galaxy. The Federation didn't care about a child's ideas. They thought Earth was too far behind to have any impact, and when she first uploaded the simulation of the Resolute to the public database, Clara didn't expect anyone to take her seriously. She just hoped it might inspire someone, even if it was only one engineer out there who shared her vision. What Clara didn't expect was the reaction from Earth's space agency. As soon as her design appeared online, a team of engineers had spotted it. At first, they thought it was just another child's fantasy, but as they ran simulations, their surprise turned to awe. The ship's design was unlike anything they had ever seen. It combined advanced principles that were well beyond anything Earth's technology should have been able to produce. And yet, there was something strangely familiar about it. It felt like Earth's strength, its resourcefulness, was woven into the very fabric of the Resolute. Dr. Emily Carter, Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Federation, was among the first to see Clara's design. She had heard rumors of the child prodigy, but she had no idea just how far Clara's genius had gone. Dr. Carter immediately contacted the space agency, urging them to take the design seriously. It was a bold move, considering that Earth had no allies among the Federation. But in her heart, she knew that if humanity was going to prove its worth, this was their chance. Meanwhile, Clara continued to refine her plans. She was obsessed with making the Resolute not just powerful, but efficient. She designed the ship with one clear goal in mind: adaptability. While the Federation relied on massive, powerful ships that were slow and vulnerable to new strategies, Clara knew that Earth needed a ship that could outthink the enemy, not just outgun them. The Resolute was small enough to move quickly, yet powerful enough to face even the most advanced warships in the galaxy. Clara had integrated Earth's strengths into every part of the ship: resourcefulness, innovation, and the ability to learn from failure. Clara's design used a revolutionary form of energy storage, something she had discovered while studying the strange alien technologies in Federation archives. Instead of relying on traditional power cores, the Resolute would harness the power of quantum energy fields, making the ship nearly limitless in its capabilities. The weapons were equally innovative, combining human ingenuity with alien technology. It was a ship that could adapt to any battle, any enemy, any environment. As the weeks passed, Earth's space agency began assembling a team to build the ship. They were hesitant at first, unsure of how to move forward with such an ambitious project. But Clara's design was too promising to ignore. They contacted Clara, asking her to join the team as a consultant. Clara, though young, was more than capable of leading the effort. She became the driving force behind the Resolute, guiding the engineers and scientists with the same vision that had led her to create the ship in the first place. However, building the Resolute was no easy task. Earth lacked the resources and infrastructure to build a ship of such magnitude. Most of the materials they needed were difficult to obtain, and the engineers were forced to rely on salvage technology from old Federation wrecks and broken alien ships. Clara's brilliance, however, made up for what Earth lacked. She was able to devise clever solutions, reusing parts and repurposing old tech in ways that no one else had thought of. Every setback was a challenge, but for Clara, it was just another puzzle to solve. While the Resolute was being built, the galaxy continued to watch Earth with disdain. The Federation leaders, who had laughed at humanity's attempts to contribute to the defense against the Void Reavers, were still dismissing Earth's efforts. Even as Earth's ship took shape, no one expected it to have any real impact on the war. The Void Reavers were a terrifying enemy, and the Federation was convinced that no one, not even the combined might of the galaxy's greatest civilizations, could stand against them. But Clara wasn't concerned with what the Federation thought. She wasn't concerned with their doubts or their mockery. She was focused on one thing: proving to the galaxy that humanity had a place among the stars. And with every piece of the Resolute that came together, she was one step closer to showing the universe just how wrong they had been. As the ship neared completion, Clara couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. The Federation may have laughed, but soon they would see. The Resolute would not only defend Earth, it would make humanity a force to be reckoned with. And when the time came to face the Void Reavers, the Resolute would be ready. The assembly hall on Earth's orbital shipyard was a vast, echoing space. It looked like 1,000 stars were born every day in the massive chambers where ships were constructed. The place hummed with energy, filled with workers and engineers who were all focused on the task at hand, building humanity's most ambitious project yet. In the center of it all was Clara Hill, her eyes fixed on the holographic displays of the Resolute that floated in front of her. The ship was coming together piece by piece. It wasn't a simple process, and the shipyard workers often looked at Clara, wondering how such a young girl could guide them through the most complicated shipbuilding task ever attempted by humanity. But Clara's brilliance had already proved itself. She was no longer just a child prodigy. She was the guiding force behind the Resolute. Clara had drawn up every detail of the ship's design. From its sleek outer hull to the complex systems hidden deep within its structure, every part of the warship had been planned meticulously. But now it was time to bring those plans to life, and it was not going to be easy. "Clara, we're running low on rare alloys," said Lieutenant Thomas, one of the lead engineers. "If we don't get more in the next few days, we'll have to make do with what we have, which isn't nearly as strong." Clara stood tall, her expression calm. "Then we find a way. Use the scavenged materials from the old Federation wrecks. We've been patching up ships with this stuff for years. I'm sure it will hold." Thomas hesitated. "But it's not built to withstand the kind of pressure the Resolute will face in battle." Clara met his gaze. "It will have to be. We don't have time for ideal solutions, Thomas. We've got one chance to get this right." The shipyard buzzed with a sense of urgency. There was no time to waste. Clara's design was unique. Human ingenuity combined with pieces of alien technology. It was a ship that would not only fight, but adapt. It would change the rules of warfare. And yet building it was a challenge that Earth's engineers had never faced before. Clara moved through the shipyard, her mind racing with possibilities. Every room she entered seemed like a puzzle waiting to be solved. The energy core would need to be more efficient than anything Earth had ever created. The ship's weapons, based on alien designs, had to be reworked to integrate Earth's power systems. And the AI that would control the ship, based on Clara's own strategic genius, was still in development. The pressure was mounting, but Clara wasn't afraid. "How are we doing on the hyperkinetic railguns?" Clara asked, as she approached a group of engineers working on the weaponry. "Almost ready," said Maya, the weapons specialist. "But there's a problem. The power surge when they fire might overload the ship's systems. We'll need to create a fail-safe." Clara nodded. "That's why we've designed the shields to adapt to every possible threat. If we use the railguns strategically, firing in short bursts, not full power, we'll minimize the risk." "That's bold," Maya said, impressed. "But it could work." Clara smiled, her eyes bright with confidence. "Bold is the only way we're going to survive." As the days turned into weeks, Clara became a constant presence in the shipyard. She wasn't just overseeing the construction. She was making decisions on the fly, constantly adjusting the plans as problems arose. When the engineers hit a roadblock, Clara would step in, offering solutions that no one else had thought of. Her ability to think outside the box was exactly what Earth needed to make the Resolute a reality. But it wasn't just technical problems they had to deal with. Earth's resources were limited, and every part of the ship had to be scavenged, repurposed, or built from scratch. Clara had already figured out how to use alien technology, but many of the components were unstable or incomplete. It was up to the team to adapt them, making them work with Earth's existing systems. One evening, after another long day of work, Clara sat alone in her office, staring at a blueprint of the Resolute. It was almost complete, but Clara couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. She stood up, walked over to the wall, and looked at the old photos of Earth's first space explorers. These pioneers had faced seemingly impossible odds, but they had never given up. Clara remembered the first time she had seen those photos as a child, how they had inspired her to believe that no dream was too big, no challenge too great. "Think, Clara," she whispered to herself. "What would they do?" She turned back to her desk and began to sketch. Hours passed. The room grew darker, but Clara's mind was alive with ideas. She had found the missing piece, a new form of energy storage that could give the Resolute the power it needed without compromising its speed or agility. It was a risky idea, one that could either make or break the ship. But Clara knew that if she was going to build the greatest warship the galaxy had ever seen, she had to take risks. The next morning, she rushed to the shipyard, bursting with excitement. "I have an idea," she said to the engineers. "We're going to do something different with the core. It's going to work, I promise." The engineers were skeptical but trusted Clara. And so, they worked together to integrate her new design into the Resolute. As the final pieces of the ship were put together, Earth's space agency felt a growing sense of hope. For the first time in years, humanity was building something that could stand tall against the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. But the real test was yet to come. The Resolute was almost finished, and soon it would face its greatest challenge, proving that Earth was more than just a footnote in the galaxy's history. The Federation might have laughed at Earth's efforts, but Clara knew something they didn't. The Resolute wasn't just a ship, it was a symbol of humanity's resolve. And that resolve was unstoppable. The final preparations for the Resolute were underway. The ship, now almost complete, stood on Earth's largest orbital dock, a marvel of human and alien ingenuity. Its sleek, dark hull shimmered in the light of distant stars, and the hum of its core could be felt throughout the shipyard. Clara Hill stood on the observation deck, watching as engineers made the last few adjustments. It had been a long, exhausting journey, but it was finally happening. The day had come to test the ship. Clara's mind raced. She had poured everything into this project. Every idea, every sleepless night, every challenge overcome had led to this moment. She knew that the Resolute was humanity's chance to prove itself, to show the galaxy that Earth was no longer a joke. But the stakes were higher than she had ever imagined. If the ship didn't work, if the systems failed, it could be a disaster. The Federation would have more ammunition to mock Earth, and humanity's dreams of standing with the stars might come crashing down. But Clara couldn't afford to think like that. She had to trust her design. She had to trust the team she had assembled. Most importantly, she had to trust herself. Ready for the first test, Clara. Dr. Emily Carter, Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Federation, approached her side, her voice calm but carrying the weight of the situation. Clara nodded, her eyes never leaving the Resolute. I've triple-checked everything. The power systems are stable, the weapons are calibrated, and the shields are ready. We'll know soon enough if it all works. Dr. Carter looked at her, her expression a mix of concern and admiration. I know you've worked hard on this, but you understand that this is more than just a test of the ship. It's a test of humanity's place in the galaxy. If the Resolute fails, Clara turned to her, meeting her gaze. If it fails, we'll fix it. But it won't. We've come this far. A team of engineers and scientists gathered around, preparing to initiate the first test. The ship was to be put through a series of simulations, everything from evading asteroid fields to simulated combat against a standard Federation warship. It wasn't a full battle, but it would give Clara and the team an idea of how the Resolute would perform under pressure. The control room buzzed with activity. Clara watched as the engineers ran the first set of simulations on their screens. The ship was about to be tested on its agility, speed, and defensive capabilities. Simulating asteroid field navigation, one of the engineers called out, "Engaging thrusters now." The massive screen ahead displayed a digital recreation of an asteroid field, with rocks of all sizes hurtling toward the ship. Clara held her breath. This would be the first test of the Resolute's agility. With a burst of energy, the Resolute shot forward, darting between massive asteroids with ease. The ship's speed and maneuverability were unlike anything Earth had ever seen. It zipped through the field, as if it were a fighter jet, weaving through the obstacles with precision and grace. The engineers watched in awe. "It's working," Maya, the weapons specialist, said under her breath. "It's really working." Clara allowed herself a small smile. The first part of the test had been a success, but the real challenge was yet to come. "Now, testing weapons," another engineer called out. "Preparing to simulate combat against a standard Federation warship." Clara's pulse quickened. This was it. If the Resolute could hold its own against a Federation ship, even in a simulation, it would prove that Earth had something to offer. A Federation warship was a force to be reckoned with. Their ships were enormous, bristling with powerful weapons and nearly impenetrable shields. The simulation began. On the screen, a massive Federation warship appeared, its dark hull and glowing weapons coming to life. The simulation ship powered up its shields and weapons, and the Resolute's systems automatically adjusted to the threat. Clara's eyes narrowed, watching the interaction between the ships on the screen. "Fire the railguns," Clara commanded. The weapons fired in quick succession, sending powerful kinetic blasts toward the Federation ship. But just as the simulation ship returned fire, the Resolute engaged its adaptive shields. With a sudden burst of energy, the ship's shields shifted and bent the incoming fire, dispersing the blasts in different directions. The Federation ship's attack missed completely. "Shields holding," Maya said, her voice tinged with disbelief. "The adaptive systems worked. It's deflecting the blasts." Clara's heart pounded in her chest. The ship was doing exactly what it was designed to do. It wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. The railguns fired again, striking the Federation ship in its weak points. The simulated Federation warship began to falter, its shields flickering as the Resolute continued to pound it with precise strikes. "We're winning," one of the engineers said in awe. Clara's eyes widened. The simulation was showing the impossible. Earth's ship was outmatching the Federation warship. But Clara knew it wasn't time to celebrate yet. They were still in the simulation, and the real test would come when they faced the Void Reavers. "Initiate evasive maneuvers," Clara ordered. The engineers responded immediately, and the ship quickly entered a series of barrel rolls and high-speed turns. The Federation ship fired again, but the Resolute evaded every blast. With its superior speed, it closed the distance and fired another barrage of railgun shots. This time, the Federation ship's shields couldn't hold, and the simulation warship exploded in a flash of light. The control room erupted into cheers. It worked. It really worked, Maya exclaimed, her voice filled with excitement. Clara stood still for a moment, watching the results on the screen. She felt a surge of pride, but there was still much to be done. This test was just the beginning. The Void Reavers were coming, and the Resolute would have to face real danger, not just simulations. But today, Clara had proven that humanity could stand tall among the stars. And she knew that no matter what came next, the Resolute was ready. The success of the first test had sent shockwaves through Earth's space agency. The Resolute had not only passed the simulation but had outperformed every expectation. The ship, designed by a 12-year-old genius, had proven that humanity could stand up to the Federation's most powerful warships. News of the Resolute's success spread quickly, reaching the far corners of Earth and even beyond. But while the victory was sweet, it was only the beginning. The galaxy was still laughing, still mocking Earth's place among the stars. And the Void Reavers were coming. Clara Hill sat in her room, staring out the window at the vastness of space. The stars twinkled in the distance, each one a reminder of the countless unknowns that lay beyond. The ship was ready. Her design, her dream, was ready. But was humanity? Was Earth? The Federation had underestimated Earth's potential for far too long. They had dismissed humanity as weak, as unworthy of standing alongside the other galactic powers. But Clara knew the truth. Earth's greatest strength wasn't in its technology or its military might. It was in the human spirit, the resilience to never give up, to face overwhelming odds and still find a way to survive. I think you're ready, Clara. Dr. Emily Carter's voice broke through Clara's thoughts. She turned to see the ambassador standing in the doorway of her room. Clara smiled, though there was a hint of uncertainty in her eyes. Are we, though? Clara asked softly. The Void Reavers aren't just another warship. They're different. Their methods are unpredictable, their tactics vicious. The Resolute has done well in simulations, but it hasn't faced anything like what's coming. Dr. Carter stepped into the room, her gaze steady. You've designed the perfect ship. You've made sure it's adaptable, capable of changing the course of battle with every new move. But the Resolute is only part of the equation, Clara. The rest of the galaxy needs to believe in it too. They need to believe in you. Clara sighed, sitting back on her bed. It's hard to make them believe. The Federation still sees us as a joke. They mock Earth. They mock the Resolute, even after all we've done. I don't know if they'll ever accept us as equals. You don't need them to accept you, Dr. Carter replied. You just need them to fear you. Clara's brow furrowed. Fear. That's what this is all about. Dr. Carter nodded. It's not about proving that you're the strongest or the most powerful. It's about showing that you can change the tide of war, that you can surprise even the most powerful opponents. The Void Reavers won't expect it. They'll see the Resolute as just another ship at first, just like the Federation did. But when they see what it can do, they'll realize that they're facing something entirely different. And that's when you win. Clara took a deep breath, considering the weight of Dr. Carter's words. She had never been one to seek fear or power, but she understood now that it wasn't about fear of Earth itself. It was about the power of the Resolute, the unyielding spirit of humanity that the Resolute represented. The Void Reavers won't go down easily, Clara said, her voice firming. But I'll make sure the Resolute is ready. We'll show them what Earth can do. With that, Clara stood and walked over to the large holographic display in the center of her room. The blueprints for the Resolute appeared in front of her, and she studied them with renewed focus. There was still much to do. They had only scratched the surface of what the ship was capable of. And Clara knew that if they were going to face the Void Reavers, they would have to push the ship beyond its limits. Clara's mind raced as she began making adjustments to the ship's systems, tweaking the energy cores, refining the weapon systems. The Resolute wasn't just a ship. It was an extension of herself, an embodiment of her vision for humanity's future. She had designed it to be adaptable, to think on its feet and outsmart the enemy. And she was determined to make sure it was perfect. Meanwhile, on Earth's orbital station, the countdown to the fleet's first real mission was beginning. Earth's space agency had assembled a small fleet, led by the Resolute, to intercept the Void Reavers before they could reach Earth. Clara's ship was the only one capable of standing a chance, and it was up to her to lead the way. The day arrived. The fleet was ready, and the Resolute was at the center of it all. As Clara stood on the bridge of her ship, she looked out at the vast expanse of space. The crew, a mix of humans and Federation defectors who had come to believe in Earth's cause, were preparing for the mission ahead. They were nervous, but Clara could see the determination in their eyes. They had come to trust her, to trust the Resolute. And for Clara, that trust was everything. "This is it." Dr. Carter's voice came over the intercom, her words steady but filled with the weight of the moment. "We're facing the greatest threat humanity has ever known. But we have the Resolute, and we have Clara, and that's all we need to win." Clara nodded to herself, the words settling in her heart. She had done everything she could to prepare. The ship was ready. Her team was ready. And now it was time for Earth to face its greatest test. As the fleet prepared to jump into hyperspace, Clara took a deep breath. The next few hours would change everything. The galaxy would either laugh, or they would finally recognize Earth's place in the stars. And Clara knew one thing for sure. The Resolute would not back down. The vastness of space stretched before them as Earth's fleet, led by the Resolute, prepared for the first true battle. Clara stood at the bridge, her hand steady as she monitored the fleet's systems. The atmosphere was tense, filled with the quiet hum of the ship's engines and the soft chatter of the crew as they made their final preparations. "It's time," Dr. Carter said, her voice coming through the intercom. "We're entering Void Reaver space. Stay sharp, everyone." Clara could feel her heart race, but her expression remained calm. She had prepared for this moment for months. She had designed the Resolute for this very purpose, to face the deadliest and most unpredictable forces in the galaxy. But even knowing that didn't make the fear go away. The Void Reavers were unlike anything Earth had ever encountered. Savage, relentless, and brutal, they had terrorized countless civilizations, leaving nothing but destruction in their wake. Clara had read the reports, seen the devastation they caused, but nothing could prepare her for the reality of facing them. "Prepare for hyperspace jump," the helmsman called out, his voice steady, but with a trace of nervousness. "All systems go." Clara nodded, her eyes never leaving the view ahead. The stars blurred as the fleet entered hyperspace, traveling faster than the speed of light toward the heart of the Void Reaver's territory. Clara's mind raced with plans, strategies, and possibilities. She knew the Resolute could handle whatever came their way. But it wasn't just about the ship. It was about the crew, the people who had put their trust in her and the ship. "We're approaching the edge of the system," the tactical officer said. "We should be able to detect the Void Reaver fleet soon." Clara stood tall, her resolve firm. This was their moment. It wasn't just about Earth's survival. It was about sending a message to the entire galaxy. That Earth was no longer a weak, isolated planet. That they could fight, adapt, and survive. Suddenly, the quiet of the bridge was shattered by a sharp alarm. Red lights flashed, and the screens in front of Clara filled with data. "Void Reaver fleet detected," the tactical officer called out. "Massive, heading our way." Clara's heart skipped a beat. They had found them. The Void Reavers were close. "Prepare for battle," Clara ordered, her voice calm but commanding. "Activate shields and weapons, all hands to battle stations." The crew moved swiftly, their training kicking in as they prepared for the fight ahead. Clara walked to the center of the bridge, her eyes scanning the holographic displays as the Void Reaver fleet came into view. They were massive. The ships were jagged, intimidating, and covered in dark armor that seemed to absorb the light around them. Their designs were unlike anything Earth had seen, crude yet deadly. The Void Reavers didn't care about elegance or efficiency. They cared only about destruction. And from the looks of it, they had come to claim Earth. "Engage defensive systems," Clara ordered, her voice unwavering. "Raise the shields. Fire railguns on my command." The ship trembled slightly as the Resolute's shields came to life, wrapping the vessel in a translucent blue energy field. The air on the bridge crackled with electricity as the ship's weapons powered up. Clara's eyes remained locked on the approaching enemy fleet. "Railguns ready," the weapons officer called out. "Waiting for your order." Clara held her breath. The Void Reavers were closing in fast, and the battle would soon begin. The Resolute's railguns were powerful, but they were no match for the Void Reaver ship's thick armor. But Clara had another plan, one that she hoped would give them the edge they needed. "Fire a warning shot," Clara ordered. "Hit their lead ship." The first shot rang out, a massive burst of kinetic energy that sped through space, hitting one of the lead Void Reaver ships. The impact shook the enemy vessel, sending it veering off course. It wasn't enough to destroy the ship, but it sent a clear message. The Void Reaver fleet responded almost immediately. The lead ship fired back, launching a barrage of missiles that streaked toward the Resolute. "Evasive maneuvers," Clara shouted, her voice sharp. The Resolute jolted to the side, narrowly dodging the incoming missiles. The ship's thrusters fired at full power, allowing the crew to twist and turn through space with incredible agility. The enemy missiles missed, their explosions lighting up the darkness of space. "We've got them on the run." Maya, the weapons specialist, called out, her voice filled with excitement. "They're retreating." But Clara knew it wasn't over yet. The Void Reavers might retreat temporarily, but they were relentless. They would be back, and they would be furious. "Prepare for another strike," Clara said, her voice calm. "They won't be down for long. We need to be ready." And just as she had predicted, the Void Reaver fleet didn't stay down for long. The lead ship regrouped, and soon the fleet was charging back at the Resolute, this time firing everything they had. "Shields at 80%, the tactical officer reported. "We can hold them off, but we need to end this quickly." Clara's eyes locked onto the enemy ships. This was the moment that would decide everything. If they didn't act fast, the Void Reavers would overwhelm them. "Activate the hyperkinetic railguns," Clara ordered, her voice fierce with determination. "Target their weak points. Aim for the engines." The crew followed her command. The railguns roared to life, and the ship fired again. The Void Reaver fleet scattered as the powerful blasts hit their marks, one ship after another being crippled by the precision of the Resolute's weapons. It wasn't long before the Void Reaver fleet was in full retreat. Clara stood at the center of the bridge, watching as the remaining enemy ships fled into the distance. "Victory," Maya said, a smile breaking out on her face. "We did it." Clara exhaled slowly, her heart still racing from the intensity of the battle. The Resolute had proven itself in the heat of combat. The Void Reavers had underestimated humanity, and the Resolute had shown them just how wrong they were. But Clara knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy would know Earth's name now, and from this day forward, humanity would no longer be laughed at. The battle with the Void Reavers was over, but Clara Hill knew this was only the beginning. The echoes of the conflict would reverberate across the galaxy. The crew of the Resolute had stood their ground and emerged victorious, but the road ahead was still uncertain. The stars might have looked the same from Earth, but for Clara and her crew, they had forever changed. The fleet returned to Earth, a victorious force carrying the news of humanity's triumph. As the Resolute and the rest of the fleet entered Earth's orbit, Clara stood on the bridge, staring at the planet below. Earth was more than just her home. It was the symbol of what humanity had become: resilient, resourceful, and strong. The communications officer spoke up, breaking Clara from her thoughts. "We're receiving a message from the Galactic Federation, Clara. They're requesting a meeting." Clara felt a flutter of nerves. The Federation had always viewed humanity with skepticism, even disdain. Now, after defeating the Void Reavers, they would have to recognize Earth's place in the galaxy. But would they welcome them as equals, or would they see them as a threat? "Put it through," Clara said, trying to remain calm. A holographic projection flickered to life in front of her, and the stern face of the Federation counselor appeared. His expression was unreadable, his dark eyes fixed on Clara. The silence in the room felt heavy as the counselor took a moment before speaking. "Clara Hill," he began, his voice cool and measured. "You've done something that no one thought possible. You and your ship, the Resolute, have managed to defeat the Void Reavers, a task that has claimed the lives of many advanced civilizations. For this, the Galactic Federation recognizes your achievement." Clara stood a little straighter. It wasn't much, but it was a start. "We have long doubted humanity's place in the stars," the counselor continued. "But after what you have done, we must reconsider. Your victory over the Void Reavers speaks to a power that cannot be ignored. Earth is no longer a forgotten backwater. It is a force to be reckoned with." Clara took a deep breath, her heart beating faster. She had spent years working for this moment, for Earth to be seen not as weak, but as a force capable of standing tall beside the galactic powers. Now it was happening. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady but full of meaning. "But we didn't do it alone. The Resolute is a symbol of what humanity can achieve when we come together. And Earth isn't just a place. It's the spirit of every human who has ever fought for a better future. We've earned our place here, and we're not going anywhere." The counselor's eyes narrowed slightly, as if processing her words. For a moment, the silence hung in the air. Then he spoke again. "You're right, Clara Hill. Earth has earned its place. The Federation will no longer stand in your way. We welcome you into the fold of galactic powers. However, there are those among us who will be watching. Your victory has made you a target, and your strength will be challenged. The Void Reavers will regroup, and there are other threats in the galaxy who might see Earth as a threat to their own power." Clara nodded, her expression unwavering. "We'll be ready." The hologram flickered again as the counselor nodded curtly. "We'll be watching. But know this, Earth's place in the galaxy has changed. We recognize your strength, and you have our respect." With that, the projection cut off, leaving Clara in silence once more. The tension in the air remained, but something had shifted. For the first time, Earth was no longer a joke. It was respected. And that respect came with its own challenges. But Clara knew they were ready for whatever the galaxy threw their way. Turning to her crew, Clara saw the pride in their eyes. They had accomplished something no one thought possible. The Resolute had proven itself. And so had humanity. "We did it," Maya, the weapons specialist, said with a grin. "We actually did it. Earth is in the Federation now." Clara smiled, but the weight of their victory still hung heavily on her shoulders. "Yes, but this is just the beginning. We've shown the galaxy what we're capable of, but we need to be ready for whatever comes next. The Void Reavers might be down, but they're not out. And there are other dangers we haven't even imagined yet." The crew nodded, their faces filled with determination. They had just won an impossible battle, but they knew that the true fight was only beginning. The galaxy was vast, and there would be others who would challenge Earth's place among the stars. "Let's make sure we're ready," Clara said, her voice filled with resolve. "We've proven we belong here. Now let's make sure we stay here." With that, the crew went to work, preparing for the next chapter in humanity's journey among the stars. The victory over the Void Reavers had made Earth a force to be reckoned with, but as Clara stared out at the stars, she knew that they had only just begun. The galaxy was vast, and it held countless challenges. But Earth was no longer a forgotten planet. It was part of something bigger. And as long as the Resolute was out there, flying through the stars. Humanity would never be underestimated again.